Welcome to Three Devs and a Maybe. Now introducing your show hosts, Michael Budd, Fraser Hart, Lewis Gaines, and Ed Mann.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Three Devs and a Maybe. I am Fraser. You probably haven't heard my voice in a long, long time, and with me is usual hosts Ed.
Hello.
And Mickey.
Hello.
Fraser, how are you doing, sir? You haven't been on the show for, I think I worked out, it's like almost a year.
I'd be surprised if it was less than a year, to be honest with you, because I've lived in my current place for about 9 months, and I've not done a single one since I've lived here. So this is a first for me.
There's been an Ironman going on. I know that you've been doing a lot of work. What's the dealio?
Yeah, so September I did the Ironman. That was good. So the training and all that took up a hell of a lot of my time, which was my excuse for that. But that finished in September. So ever since then, I've literally just been working. Work's been going really, really good. I've had a couple of promotions in the last year or so, which is good. So I've gone from being a senior developer to lead developer, and now I'm head of web development, which is nice.
Wow.
Yeah, quite enjoying that. So work's going fantastically. I've done very little freelance work, and I'm thinking of just sacking that off altogether at the moment, to be honest, just because every time kind of it comes around time to submit my tax return, it's always very complicated. And yeah, I've had a bit of a not a falling out, but a bit of a bad time with the tax office this year. Like, yeah, they kind of say, after I submit my tax return, they said, "Oh, you owe us another 500 quid." So I was like, "Well, where's this 500 quid come from?" And then they said, "Oh, well, it's from 2 years ago's tax returns." So I proved that I'd paid that, and then they're like, "Oh, actually, no, it's not from there. It's from this." And so they've been basically taking money off me without my knowledge, and then paying it back after I've complained, and then giving me more money and then requesting that back. But I think it's finally come to an end anyway. But anyway, that's a bit of a rant anyway. But yeah, it's more hassle than it's worth for the minimal freelance work I do anyways, to be honest. So yes, it's especially when you're in the office for 8 hours a day, and then you come home and you don't really want to, well, I don't know about you guys, but you don't really want to write any more code when you get home. And then to have to, on top of that, deal with kind of billing and paying off your invoices and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm thinking of just kind of getting rid of everything that I've got. And yeah.
Happy days, man. So how was the Ironman then? Well, I've got to speak about this because it sounds like the training sounded insane. Like, how was the day? It
was really good. It was a fantastic day. Like the day before, the kind of the bigger thing for the Ironman was all the training, because it was 9 months of 20 hours a week of running and cycling and swimming. So the kind of the day itself was the icing on the cake, because it was all this preparation, all this prep. It kind of came together, and I'm not the fastest triathlete in the world, but I managed to get to the end of the course. But it was fantastic, yeah, and it was quite an emotional experience stood on the beach, because it was something that I've wanted to do for a number of years. And then like the Welsh national anthem's playing. I'm not Welsh at all.
But you there was a tear in your eye, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was a bit of a lump in the throat. They were all singing, and it was quite a nice experience. And the sun's coming up over the sea and everything. And then and then they started playing Thunderstruck by AC/DC, and everyone pounded into the water, and it was just an amazing atmosphere. Yeah, and then getting to the end was fantastic, and getting the medal around my neck and what have you. But yeah.
So so what was the hardest part? I know you're into your cycling a lot, aren't you?
Yep.
So that may have been was that like the least?
No, I'd say the cycling was the worst part of it, to be honest, just because time wise it's a much bigger proportion of the day. It's like 60 or 70% of the day versus the running and the swimming. I'd say the most enjoyable was the swimming. Because it was just an experience that I hadn't done before. I'm not a strong swimmer, and I've not done a whole lot of swimming in my life. So to be in the water with like 1,000 other swimmers and kind of and feeling as if I'm holding my own as well, which was quite nice. Yeah, so that was quite a nice thing. And then the bike ride was just kind of boring. I got like a flat after about a mile. So it's 112 miles on the bike, and then after a mile I got a flat, so I had to change that, and I'm getting overtaken by all these people that I'd kind of beaten out of the swim and all this kind of stuff. So that was a bit demoralising. And then got that fixed, and then it was just a bit of a slog, to be honest, on the bike. It was, some of the scenery was quite nice, but I very easily could have, or I very happily could have ended the bike 4 hours before I did. And then then onto the run, and the run was A whole marathon. Yeah, I was quite tired by that point anyway, obviously, understandably.
Oh, no, no, that's crazy. How can you be tired after like 5 mile, 5 mile swim and then 120
Oh,
miles?
no, it was only a 2.5 mile swim, or 2.4 mile
is that
swim.
it? Oh, sorry.
Yes. But yeah, so the run was really enjoyable because it was 4 laps of 10K around the town of Tenby and just out of town and stuff. So the whole town came out to cheer. So the atmosphere was really good. And did the whole running down the carpet, and the announcer guy did the whole "You are an Ironman" and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And got myself a medal and a slice of pizza.
A couple of slices of pizza, I hope.
It was actually, I did have 2. Yeah, bit greedy.
Picked out there, God.
Yeah, I
the
know.
calories you must have burnt on that day.
A good few, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's all been going very well, to be honest. So what about you guys anyway? Because we've had a bit of a chat back and forth, but professionally, I don't really know what you guys are up to these days. Are you still at My Builder?
I am indeed, yeah. We're working on a couple of interesting things at the moment. We're doing kind of a content platform, and it's always interesting kind of incorporating something like, we decided on using a third-party solution, and incorporating that into the stack's always a fun one. I've been working a lot with Varnish this week, actually. Varnish caching, you can do some crazy routing things with it. How about you, Mixter?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still freelance.
Are you still working 700 hours a week?
No, not too much now. Actually, to be honest with you, I'm pretty strict on the hours I do.
That's really good.
You've got to find time to put Prison Break into it, haven't you? Really, you've got to somehow line it up.
Don't get me started. I'm so addicted to that. But I'm still freelance and still enjoying it. I think grass is always green on the other side. Sometimes it feels, and sometimes I think, am I doing the right thing? But I'm generally enjoying it. So at the moment, I'm just it has been a while since I spoke to you. But so the main application that I've been working on for my big client that went live just after Christmas, and that's all going okay. So we're just sort of moving on to the next stage of it, which is like making it so that we can white label it and other people can use the software and sell it, etc. So that's going well. But at the moment, I'm just doing creating the API side of things, which was dead quick and easy to do, but I suspected that the documentation stage would be harder. And so that bit is, to be honest, at the moment, it's a bit of a nightmare. But I'm using, I don't know, have you guys heard of Swagger?
Yep.
You have? Cool, yeah. So
I think we've just started using that.
Have you? Oh,
yeah.
Right. Oh, you might be the person to nag about it then.
It rings a bell.
Yeah, so, but it's really cool sort of open source tool that allows you to basically document your code. You do it in like annotations with all like your methods and stuff, and you do it in a I'm going to get this wrong now. I think it's a Doctrine annotation style, which I've never used before in my life. It's not exactly massively different from anything I've done before, but it is a little bit different. But annotations are okay and everything, but then what it also gives you is like you can download like a UI tool, so then people can play with the API and use it, execute the calls and stuff. Or what you can do alternatively, which is what I've decided to do in the end, is they've got like a cloud version of it where you give it like a YAML file with all your API in there, and then it creates like the editor for you and everything, so then people can use it. And it's completely free. There's like a paid tier of like most things, but still, for what you get like out the box free is incredible. But at the moment I'm just kind of, everything I've been working with my API before has been kind of like just sort of like server based kind of authentication. Whereas now, because I'm using like this UI, then obviously I need to make sure that can contact my API, my OAuth 2 server, get a token, and obviously do that all in a very safe way. So that's what I've been playing with the last few days, and it's just it's going okay actually, but it's been a bit of a learning curve for me really. So I still massively find OAuth 2 confusing, even after using it for a long time now. Like it just, I always forget what each sort of grant type does and what the ins and outs of those are. So it's not the fun part of the project, if I'm being honest, but hopefully it'll be really good when it's done. So
that's really cool. It's really nice to hear that you're not putting so many hours in as well, because last time we spoke I think you were saying you were doing 60 odd hours a week, and
I think that was more than anything like when I was doing all the uni work and stuff as well, and I was obviously having to do that at weekends, evenings, and that's all done now. So I'm just waiting to hear that I failed, and I'll do it all again. But Still optimistic as ever. But
So when do you get your results back?
June apparently. So
Right.
Yeah, but they still make you pay for to hire your like graduation gear for the day and pay for your
Like the
ticket.
top hat and stuff.
Yeah, they make you pay for that regardless of whether you passed or failed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I had to pay for that. That was like nearly £100 for the ticket and the I don't know what you call it, the gown or whatever.
We're going to need a lot of pictures, bud. This is a good moment, a big moment. You've already done this though already, haven't you? But this is like the next stage. This is the master stage.
Yeah, you get a slightly different hat, I think. So I can't miss out on that. So
Yeah. So do you get to throw it in the air like you see in all the American films?
You're not allowed to do it. They
You're
don't
not?
let you. No.
Well, because they don't want you to lose the hat, or because of health and safety?
Exactly. You could chop someone's head off.
A lot of people died last year from hat throwing. So
You don't read about the news. 3,000 people died.
It's like primary schools like ban conkers and stuff. So there you go. They ban hat throwing as well. It's crazy.
yeah, I think it's more like damaging the hats, but but at least that's done. And like you say, no, I'm not. To be honest, as I've got older now, I'm like, I'll do the hours that I plan to do, and that's it. Because like Toby's grown up so quick, and I don't want to regret missing out on that. So I just refuse to do.
Yeah, I saw a picture that Abby posted on Facebook of him. He looks like he's 26 now.
Yeah, I saw your comment. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? So I sound like a proper old man now, but time really does fly. So but I've at the moment I've got quite a healthy work-life balance, and it's all going good, really. But like I say, I do get jealous now again. Like when I saw your picture with Uncle Bob,
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking that's what you miss out on being self-employed. So how was that anyway?
It was really good, yeah. We went to the same talk last year anyway. So it was exactly the same talk, but it was Uncle Bob and it was free, so you have to go. And then I was kicking myself a little bit last year because I think we didn't go up and get our autograph, get our autograph, get his autograph, or get a photo taken with him. We made sure we did that this time. And he was really accommodating, bless him. But you could see that he was like, oh, God, I'm only doing this because I have to, if you know what I mean. Like, he was a very polite face, but you could see, like, deep down he was kind of over interacting with everyone. He just wanted to go home. But it was really good, yeah. So a few of us from work went along. So I think there was like 5 of us. So yeah, we all went and had our photo taken with him, and it was really good. And you were talking about maybe going as well, Ed, weren't you?
I know, I missed out. I know, it really sucks, man, because it sounded interesting. So it was the same talk as last year then? Because what was the actual premise of the talk?
So he calls it like the programmer's oath. So he basically wants to put together or he's kind of encouraging developers and programmers to get together. And I know how like lawyers have got an oath, and I assume doctors have got an oath and what have you. And it's basically like a code of conduct, like you must never write code that harms another person, or you must never write code that harms another individual, and all this kind of stuff. And it's like you must never. There's all these kind of commandments that he wants programmers to live by, and they're all very good and all very useful and stuff. But he was kind of putting across the argument as like if we don't set these rules in place as programmers ourselves, then something bad's going to happen, and then the government's going to step in, and the government's going to tell us that we have to abide by a certain oath, and we're going to end up way worse because of it, effectively.
That is really interesting.
Yeah. And it's a really good idea, but he's just kind of putting the idea out there. I don't think he's actually fronting a big movement, but but it's a really interesting talk. And in the traditional Uncle Bob manner, like he'll start off talking about, I don't know what he was talking some science.
What was it about? What science thing?
It wasn't an astrology thing. It was chemistry, but I kind of zoned out because I don't really understand chemistry too well. He did about 15 minutes talk on that, and then he spoke about like the history of programming and how. The first proper programmer was Alan Turing, and then in whatever year that was, it was one programmer and one computer, and then how he kind of like drew the curve, and it's like every 4 years the number of programmers in the world doubles.
That's cool. I'm gonna have to hunt down this talk then, because I'm sure there must be a recorded version of it somewhere.
Oh, there will be. Yeah, if you look on the Skills Matter website, I think you can see it on there. They put it up last year.
Now, where were you sitting? Because we'll be able to spot you on the camera.
We were second row from the front. Last year we were front row.
Fanboys.
Exactly, yeah. It was kind of good because we turned up and there was like 5 of us this time, but there was only 4 spare seats at the front row, so we couldn't all sit together, so we had to take the hit and go a row back.
You're just like, you just had to quickly get there, man.
Yeah. Queue up, tent outside for for 3 days beforehand.
So what have you been up to there tech-wise, man? Because like, as you say, like if you've been doing all these moves, progressing up, your role changed, like what have you been doing?
It's changed a little bit, yes. I'm not doing as much programming these days as I traditionally had been. Whereas before I'd be kind of programming 40 hours a week effectively. But I'd say half my time now is programming, half my time's in meetings and and doing other kind of, I don't want to say managerially stuff, but kind of, because that sounds really lame, but doing kind of doing other stuff, other stuff in that kind of wheelhouse. So it's been a really interesting time over the last year anyway, because we've started using new technologies and stuff. I think I mentioned to you guys, say new technologies, we're using React and Redux now, which to us is, as a business, is new technology, but obviously it's been around for a little while. Traditionally, all our web apps have been built around like Backbone, Require.js, and Grunt. So a lot of our existing web apps, we've been converting from using Grunt to using Webpack for all our bundling and what have you, and we're no longer using Grunt to run scripts, so we're using npm scripts directly now, which is really good. It's just nice to get rid of a load of dependencies, because JavaScript is just getting a bit silly, to be honest with you. Like the last couple of days, we had a new guy start. He started a couple of weeks ago, and I spent half of my time since he started. And like this is not big any reason to do because of him, but trying to get him set up on the dev environments. And it's kind of like if your npm version is slightly different or your node version is slightly different, then a certain package won't work properly. So when you try and run the build script that we've got, it's going to fail because it can't launch Phantom for some reason. And then, so it's been dependency hell for the last couple of weeks, but that seems to be quite a common thing that we're experiencing at the moment. So we need to, I think I mentioned to you, we need to look into npm shrink wrap or yarn or whatever to kind of solidify what our dependencies are and where they're going to work and everything. Because our build server, again, runs a different version of Node and npm to our local dev machines. So it's really kind of annoying that we can't just have a build once, run everywhere solution, which is effectively what we should be having. There's been a lot of that. I was saying we've done a couple of new apps. Everything, all the new work that we're doing, all the kind of the greenfield stuff that we're doing is now React and Redux. It was kind of annoying there as well. So we set up this boilerplate, which is all our test runners, our build scripts. What else have we got in there? All our linting and basically your dev environment and Webpack dev server and all this kind of stuff, so you instantly get feedback and whatever. So we had it all down, and then that was on Webpack 1, and then like a week later Webpack 2 comes out. So like, okay, now we have to go back to the boilerplate. We don't have to, but since we've just done it, we should be on later versions of whatever. So now we're upgrading to Webpack 2, and it's all interesting, but it's a lot of boilerplating in the JavaScript world.
We were talking about this in the last podcast, that I accidentally upgraded from Webpack 1 to Webpack version 2. Don't ask me how, I don't know. It was just one of those stressful days where something was broke, so you just just upgrade everything until you get back to a stable release. And I somehow ended up on a Webpack version 2, and it caused chaos, to be honest with you. But then so I don't know, how hard did you find that then?
One of the other guys spent most of the time on it, to be honest with you. It was very much I say the first one, because we've got a number of apps that we use in Webpack 1. So the first one was a little bit of trial and error, but once he'd worked out the kind of what he had to do and what he needed to change and which configurations, because it is all this configuration, I guess, at the end of the day, isn't it?
So this is like the beauty of management. You can just delegate all the horrible stuff and just take credit for it.
Yeah, but the guy that did it, he's a really, really good developer. He's working. We've got an office up in Newcastle. I don't know if I mentioned that before anyway. So he's working up in the Newcastle office, but he's really good. He's been working on a bunch of Android dev, but he wanted to come and do some web stuff. So he's come over to our team, and he's done a really, really good job of it. And he's really smart lad. And he's managed to knock it out the park.
Very nice. So what is then the differences between Webpack 1 and Webpack 2?
To be honest, it's configured slightly different. So the configuration in theory is a lot simpler,
which is nice, because it is quite confusing, Webpack 1.
Exactly. And in terms of functionality and what it offers you, apparently it offers you smaller bundles, but we didn't actually do any A/B testing to see what those savings were, and I do not know.
There was one thing like tree shaking or something is a big thing, isn't it?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, but that kind of, if you're using a good IDE anyway, that's the benefits of that should be pretty minimal, because all it does is it just doesn't compile modules that. So if you import a module that isn't actually used anywhere, then it just won't include that in the bundle. Which is, if you've got an IDE that shows you unused imports and whatever, then it's not irrelevant, or it's a nice to have rather than this is a great feature.
It's interesting you say that, because I remember you guys were using Webpack a long time before I started using it, maybe like a year, 2 years before I did, and I was just using Gulp at the time, and I wasn't particularly an advocate of Gulp, but it was easy to use, And
and you knew it, and it did the job. Yeah,
and then slowly over time, like I found like when going into production and stuff, it was dog slow. And so I switched to Webpack, and like you say, I didn't find it particularly like easy to set up, or I don't know. And like even though I had like a Webpack config file, then I had a separate babel.rc file, and it's kind of like I just wanted like everything in one place. Probably because I'm doing it wrong, to be honest with you. But I've never found it particularly easy, if I'm being honest.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it is quite a tricky thing, and it is just a lot of configuration. Yeah, we're still using like Babel RC files and ESLint dot whatever files to configure the ESLint settings, and yeah, there's a lot of kind of moving parts that all have to work together, and they all have to work together perfectly, which is not a great thing when there's one 22-year-old over here developing Webpack, and there's one 22-year-old over here developing Babel, and there's no kind of, if you get what I mean.
There's no sharing of anything, really. It's completely different mindset. Even though you're in JavaScript land and you're in like the latest and greatest of ES6, there's no transfer.
Yeah. The guy I sit next to, he's my boss. He's the head of engineering. He's a Java programmer. And every time we discuss these new kind of tools and whatever, he just sits there and rolls his eyes, because it's like, it seems, and it is exactly this. Like every month or 2 months or something, there's a brand new technology that as front-end developers, we, in quotes, have to adopt because it's a new standard. And it's just like, when's it going to settle down? And it's a valid question.
Yeah. I guess it's the same for, well, maybe not as frantic, but the Java guys, I mean, have they just had a new release of Java? Have they? I think, is it Java? What version are they on, Ed?
They got Java 8, yeah, they got Java 8, and then I think 9's slowly, I think, coming out. But I think it is that, I think they've had tried and true, haven't they, with like Swing and all these types of enterprisey kind of things that have a bit more standard release. Whereas we, with like, you say, with like the open source, free movement of it all, it's kind of, yes, it's like we've moved from backbone and underscore to, well, jQuery backbone underscore, then we've gone to, okay, now we want to go into React world, or you want to go to Angular. I mean, Angular is a whole other thing. Haven't they completely skipped a version? There's no Angular 3?
Yeah, they've skipped 3. So it went from Angular 1, which is completely different, to Angular 2. And then they're now on Angular 4, which is a non-breaking upgrade to Angular 2, apparently. So 1 and 2 are completely inoperable.
Do you know any of the reasons why they moved that? Because with PHP lost 6 because of the Unicode stuff. It was a tried thing, but is there any reason why Angular 3 is just vaporware?
I don't know. I think I read something about they wanted to go to semantic versioning, and then for some reason 4 made more sense than 3. But I don't.
Well, it's a bigger number. It sounds better.
I don't know.
It's like the Xbox 360, isn't it? It's like we can't call it the Xbox 2 because it has to be like PS3. It has to be better. So it's like 360. It's like, yeah, let's just make a number that means nothing.
Exactly, yeah. And like, it's not like they're competing against React 4 or
exactly, completely different ballgame. I mean, well, I suppose it is a technology you can use, but I mean, the mindsets in Angular though are quite similar now with like the idea of virtual DOM and things. But obviously, the Flux philosophy and Redux and that, I don't think that kind of transcends over.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've not played with Angular 2. Like, I played with Angular 1 way back. But yeah, I've not touched Angular in a number of years, to be honest with you. And I do like Angular, or from what I've played with on Angular 1. But yeah, it is very heavy compared to React and whatever.
Yeah, because so how have you found then the Redux and React model? Because obviously that's massively different than to the backbone work that you've been doing with previous projects.
It is, yeah. No, I really enjoy it, to be honest with you. It makes complex applications a lot simpler than Backbone, because our Backbone apps we're getting, and we still have them, and they still are like this. But you get these kind of, it's really hard to work out where something originates from. So you've got all these listeners listening out for certain events and all these different things triggering events, and events being picked up and fired everywhere. And it can be quite difficult and frustrating to actually work out where the event's coming from. Whereas at least with the kind of the single direction of flow within React and Redux, you can pretty easily determine what's causing something to update, and there's great debugging tools and what have you for it, and it just feels a lot cleaner and a lot nicer to just to work with when stuff starts getting a bit more complex.
Obviously, you're doing a lot of games and stuff. Like, that's quite complex stuff in itself. Like, is there much, I suppose, like in the code changes, like, because obviously it's a very different design pattern. Like, did you have to kind of rethink how you were going to do things and kind of play around with that kind of side of things?
We did, yeah. We've not actually done any more games since that one slot game that we did about a year ago or something. We finished that one anyway, but it's all based on online gambling, effectively everything that we do. But yeah, it was a bit of a kind of a switch in the way of thinking. So we've actually got a subscription to Pluralsight. So all the new devs that come on and start doing React stuff where they've been working on Backbone previously will go through the Pluralsight course, which is really, really good. But it did take a bit of a mind shift, but I way prefer the React way of doing stuff than how we were doing things in Backbone.
Absolutely. And once you change over to thinking that way, it's very hard to not think that way. And you take it for granted, kind of, the declarative moment, actions and the store state, and it's all, the single source of truth.
Yep.
And how have you found like React as well to that then? Because obviously you've got the Redux side, but then the React side.
Yeah, I mean, the React has been fantastic as well. Like it's, again, there's with React and stuff, there's a whole lot of plumbing and boilerplating and stuff that you need to do before you can actually start writing code, which has been quite frustrating. So we've written a couple of pretty decent sized apps in React and Redux at the moment, but it seems like you're spending like 60% of your time plugging in different dependencies and stuff than you are actually listening for like, I don't know, actually implementing code, to be honest with you. But no, it's been pretty good, and especially when it's just nice having the store change and then having your UI change. But stuff like that makes you think differently because you're now no longer listening to, like, for instance, when you update an input box, like you don't update the input box, you trigger a JavaScript event which then updates the state for whatever value is in that. So it goes the whole way through the cycle rather than I'm just typing something into an input box, which is another way that we've had to think a lot different. But it's little stuff like that. But yeah, it's been great. And
have you found like kind of debugging it and stuff? Do you use logging in production and things like that for your JavaScript stuff now?
No, we're still not doing that because that was something that I'd mentioned to you. I think on the last podcast I was on. Like I really wanted to get us doing some kind of catching the errors client side and sending those or logging those somewhere. But we're not doing any of that in production. In terms of development tools, we're using Redux Dev Tools, which is really, really cool. So have you played with them much?
Yeah, they're insane, aren't they?
Yeah, well, it's just really good. Every time there's anything, or every time there's like an action that's dispatched or anything that goes on to do with your store, it's nice being able to say exactly what it was before, what the action was, and what it is now, and then being able to time travel through all those things. That's been really useful.
Sorry, did you say it was about the React Dev Tools or
Redux Dev Tools?
Okay, because that sounds like something that I've been looking for ages, but I'm not using Redux, so probably not going to help.
You're not using Redux, you say?
I'm not. No, I know you and Ed use it, and is it Redux that I regret not using? I can't remember now. So I'm using Flux and React.
Okay.
And what's the one that I should have? Immutable.js. Yeah, so yeah, maybe I should look at both of those, to be fair.
Okay, how do you find Immutable.js? Because I've been tossing a coin whether or not to use it, because obviously it's very useful, but are you ever in situations, do you just use that to make copies of your data, or do you ever use like object.assign or...
Immutable.js?
Yeah.
I'm not using it, and I wish I had used it.
Okay,
because
sorry.
I got burnt big time with some of the kind of like should component update methods. I was doing comparisons on objects and stuff, and because various things, like it wasn't detecting that something had changed because it was comparing on like the object reference rather than the contents of the objects and all that kind of stuff. And so what I was doing is sorry, probably listeners have heard me bang on about this 3,000 times, but for your benefit, like I was basically using a really hacky way of doing it because it's just what I found on Stack Overflow, basically. JSON, parse, JSON stringify.
Yeah.
And what I didn't realize was that was like a deep clone of the object. And so as soon as I had like maybe like 1,000 items and it was doing comparisons on all of those, my application became so dog slow. And it was I was trying to debug this thing for ages, and I finally realized what it was. And then I found like a shallow clone function that someone had put on, again, on Stack Overflow, and I switched that out on everything, and the speed up was insane. Like, it was night and day. It really was. So yeah, I should have used Immutable.js, and then it would have saved me my horrible hacky way of doing things. So
yeah. Well, at least you've got dependency that you're not having to carry around in your application. It's a little bit lighter.
Yeah, right.
Because Immutable.js probably brings with it all kind of manner of other dependencies that it requires as well. So
It's true. It'd be interesting to benchmark my Hacks version and Immutable.js. But
that's good stuff.
Yeah, next big React app, I will use that, definitely.
So you're using Flux and React on the big project that you shipped just after Christmas?
That's right. Yeah, I am. Yeah. So it was a huge learning curve for me. And to be honest with you, like I say, everything I'm doing in JavaScript really is, I'm sure if anyone who is a serious JavaScript developer looked at it, they would just, instantly vomit. But yeah, it has been.
No, I don't think so at all.
Well, it's one of those things where I wish I knew what I know now back then, because I've learned a lot, and I have been reading a book on ES6 because I learned it the wrong way, I think. And also what I thought I understood, I probably knew like 1% of what ES6 actually gives you. So yeah, it's a really good challenge to have. And like I say, if you're not learning, then you're in a bad place. So yeah, it's good. But I mean, like you say with the whole the Java guys, and they've really had too much more to learn about. With JavaScript, like you say, ES6 is more, for me, I know, probably a bit controversial, but it feels more like revolution than evolution. It's such a huge shift, isn't it? I think, personally. I mean, I guess at one point someone would have said, if you're starting to learn programming, just learn a bit of JavaScript. Well, probably now it's still true, but, that would be if you were learning the real basics. I mean, if you were looking at ES6, I mean, it can be really confusing if you were new to programming, I think.
That's cool. So, Eddie, what technologies are you working in mostly at the moment?
Our stack at the moment, so we're rolling obviously PHP, we've got React, Redux, we got Flux in there, because we adopted like React and kind of that philosophy, the Flux philosophy, quite early on, probably 2 years ago now. So we've kind of gone through the times of, it was simply Flux, and it was kind of a lot of stores, a plethora of stores, and it was the way, with React, and then it was testing it and how to test it with Phantom.js and things like that, and you'd use Karma and you'd hit a massive DOM, and you'd use like a real in a DOM type of thing and stuff. And then we've kind of moved on, and we kind of look more into like the GraphQL-y kind of looking things, kind of not really GraphQL, but kind of the way of a philosophy of how it works and how you would kind of use a lot more promise-based approaches. Because it's funny how it's like the Flux or the Redux or the React kind of way, the best practice in quotes from 2 years ago is now completely obsolete. And it's like every month you'll see, and it's like you look at all the different projects and how people are best, in quote, best practice doing things now, and it's like, yeah, you completely changed the idea now. It's the same concepts, like your same idea of what you want to complete, but the way you do it, it's like a to-do app kind of thing. Like you'll see a completely different implementation, even though using the same tools, because people have got a different idea of how to build things now. With Redux middlewares and things like that to handle asynchronous flow, and instead, like in the Flux flow, we kind of did a lot more. We handled it. We're using like the kind of philosophy of having like a server, API server callbacks and things like that. So that's kind of changed a lot for us. And then like kind of, I mean, really it has been just, it is Symfony 3, it's, well, Symfony 2, 8, and then 3, PHP. We've been fortunate enough to be able to release an iPhone app using Swift for that. The nice thing was we were able to take advantage of the React stuff and the actual mobile application we've done. And really, we've just done kind of what you would, like incorporated a web view into it. And because of the bindings you can do now with stuff from web views, you can actually really hook into what JavaScript and stuff it's doing. So Sten, the person who's worked on that, he's done a great job like releasing that and working on that.
Yeah. Are you using Docker?
No. So this is the thing. So again, it's that whole, even like you say in the JavaScript world, like, oh, you have to use these things. Docker was something that was on our radar and we seriously considered it, but we've kind of toned down our kind of thinking about using it now, because what you want and what you need and like whether it's useful enough, like we felt maybe it's not at this time for us. Our current stack is quite interesting, really. Like so we've essentially got one big box that handles the admin and handles the marketplace side of things, and then we have some APIs, and APIs are separated. Although it's on the same stack or on the same hardware, everything is kind of, think of them as their own set. I wouldn't say a microservice, the APIs, but like they're separate applications with their own rates of change and stuff. Although they all live in, this is all PHP bound, but although they all live in one monolithic repository, they're all separated out. And the way we can deploy them and we can, release them all together, but the way we can actually choose dependencies and handle that stuff is all, all separated, which is quite nice. We then have another box which deals with is pretty much a replica of the live one, so that if anything ever in quote went down, we could always switch to that one. But also that handles a lot of the cron tasks and stuff. And then actually recently we've been moving to we've used a bit of AWS stuff. And we've been using a lot for push notifications because of the iPhone app, having that on a dedicated server. And actually today with the content stuff is another thing actually where we've decided we're going to move it into its own server as well, and then having its separate deployments for that. But really kind of the Jenkins builds and the way we've done it is we do Jenkins builds because it's one big monolith. We initially deployed it to every server and only then had the public configurations for each individual one to, to point to what it needed, or part of that build. But instead now actually we're doing is we're separating out all of the different Jenkins builds, set content up so content only deploys, even just with a simple rsync exclude, is only deploy what that actually needs. For what it is, it's really nice because it still is quite a trivial kind of setup, but it works so well. And I think it's very much, a lot of these technologies are amazing and really, really clever and really, really cool if you've got the need for them. And, like maybe we don't have the need for them yet, or, you want to seek to that point when you do need the need for it. Like a lot of these things you hear from like, oh yeah, Google are doing this, so we should do it. It's like, well, do you really need to?
Exactly, yeah. And you'll try and find a way to work that in just because you feel you have to.
That's it. And you don't. And, keeping it simple, stupid is the best way. Like, can we make this as simple as possible? Because that's the real, value of code is like simple code that someone can pick up and simple systems that people can pick up and understand.
What's the added stress like being head of development then?
It's actually not that bad at all. Yeah, we've got some fairly good processes in place anyway. So, yeah, it's very rare that... it's very rare that I've got any stress. But the main point of stress is because I'm still obviously programming. But if I've got a project that I've got a tight deadline on, but there's a bunch of other stuff that I'm having to do, and like the people that are kind of giving us these deadlines are also the people that are taking me off the project because they need to have meetings for this, that, and the other. It can get silly in terms of that. Like for instance, today we had a higher level, or I had a meeting to give high level estimates for a project that no one apart from the salespeople had heard of, and they'd already decided the technology stack and whatever. So it was kind of a bit like, okay, so you want me to give estimates for this? We don't even know if it's the best way of doing it. And yeah, basically we just had to say that we can't give estimates. But yeah, in terms of stress, there's not a whole lot of stress, to be honest with you. It's I don't want to say very cruisy, but it's all very manageable.
You're given like time allocation then for management stuff, so you're not expected to do the same amount of code as what you were doing before, I guess.
Yeah, we're talking about, we have our stand-up meetings every day, and there's been a bit of work that it's only about a day's work. And I think on Monday we had a stand-up, and I was like, yeah, I can probably get this done by the end of today. And then Monday rolls around, and I've done literally nothing on it because I've been doing other stuff. And then yesterday, exactly the same as well. Like, so I didn't get a chance to work on it yesterday, but yeah, should have it done by the end of today. And then obviously didn't get it done by the end of yesterday, and exactly the same today. So I'm hoping before I get away for the Easter break, and I'll get a chance to actually knock that bit of code out, because it's not a huge amount of work, but I need to be able to sit down and concentrate on it for 3 or 4 hours without interruptions, which is quite difficult.
I think that's the trouble with context switching. Must be insane.
Yes.
Like, you instantly are going, I've got to go to a meeting now. And it's like, well, that whole kind of thought pattern that you may have had for an hour of doing the code is completely lost now.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. But it's good though. Yeah. I really enjoy it. And I do enjoy the extra responsibility. And it's nice as well being able to direct, not direct, but kind of
help steer the big ship, the code ship.
That's the analogy I was looking for. Yeah.
So when they ask for like estimates and stuff, do you actually have to give real times, or is it kind of like medium, high, low, kind of like how hard things are? And
yeah, it really depends. We do t-shirt sizing. I say we do t-shirt sizing. I think I've been in one meeting where we've actually given t-shirt sizes. But yeah, for the most part, a lot of our work is, apart from the greenfield projects that we get to work on, a lot of it is maintenance for our bigger clients. So they've got the web apps already, and they're like, okay, well, we want a feature where if somebody places an unusually large bet, then it gets sent off to a betting trader who will either approve or deny the bet based on the bettor's history and stuff. So it's all little features. Like I say, little features, that stuff like that's quite a big feature, but it's all additions to what you already have. So the business who we've built these apps for, they have a general idea of what they want it to do, and that's generally based on what another online gambling provider has already rolled out. So we get we know pretty well what it's supposed to do. So from that, we can break it down and we can give like estimates, reasonably accurate estimates within kind of a day or so. So yeah, we do it the whole kind of the agile way. So we'll have grooming meetings where we'll groom tickets, and sprint planning where we'll actually give time estimates for how long stuff's going to take. And then from that, then the project managers will plan out when stuff's going to be done and what's top of the priority list. And then, yeah, that'll get filtered down to me, and then I'll pass it on to whoever needs to be worked on or working on it.
It's really interesting, though, because it's kind of a whole different side that I haven't really thought of much, you know. And I mean, do you miss a lot of the coding, or do you like the fact you're splitting it 50-50? Or
No, to be honest, I do like that I'm splitting 50-50. It balances out a little bit because I really do enjoy writing code. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the other part of it as well, and it does kind of keep it balanced. And yeah, I'd say it makes things feel a lot more rounded than they previously did. But I would like to be able to get good solid blocks where I can sit down and write code.
Like tomorrow, when you get this code done.
Absolutely.
Because you mentioned, like, obviously a lot of the work is like kind of additions, written in like technologies like Backbone and things like that. And are you incorporating, are you taking like the jump to like maybe like refactor certain bits of them into Redux and React, or are you kind of splitting out? Or
not so much with it. No, we're not so much with the existing Backbone apps. We'd kind of pitched to the client that we'd very much like to rewrite a lot of their stuff in React. Yeah, what do we get out of it? And it's like, well, you get the same thing, but it's in cleaner technology, blah, 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 and it will be more easily maintained, and it will be more up to date, because a lot of these apps are 4 or 5 years old. So kind of it's written in the early days of Backbone, so the code quality is not amazing. And there wasn't a lot of test coverage for the early stuff as well. But in the end, we kind of pitched it to them. They actually signed up to it and agreed. And then we went back to the drawing board and said, well, actually, if we are going to do this, the estimates that we've given, we can't really stand by those because we don't have the test coverage around what we've currently got to kind of start moving stuff into React. So we basically had to abandon it, because to get anywhere close to we couldn't get anywhere close to the original estimates, because we'd have to spend a hell of a lot of time getting the test coverage up, because the test coverage is sitting about 40%, and we said, okay, well, if we can get the test coverage to 80%, then we can comfortably go and kind of start moving this across into React and Redux. But yeah, that would have been too much of a time sap. So we had to put our hands up and say, actually, we probably can't do this for the cost that we've quoted you, and it's going to be quite a lot more, because there's just a whole lot of code that hasn't got any tests behind it.
And that's the value of a good test coverage.
Exactly.
It has it really covered by test, and then you can easily refactor stuff later without fear.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're kind of doing Boy Scouting as we go. So we'll go, and every time we do a bit of code, we kind of say, okay, even if it's just something small, like sort out an ESLint warning or something like that, just so it's a little bit better every time you do a commit. Yeah, and that's what we're striving to do at the moment, at least.
Tests. What are they?
Are you doing tests on your React stuff, or?
Well, I kind of wish I wasn't admitting this on this podcast, but not so much. My back-end code is there's quite a bit of unit testing with the JavaScript stuff.
PHP unit?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. But it's the JavaScript that I have no testing for. I mean, obviously, I test it personally, but in terms of automated testing, I still haven't. What I really want to do is settle on what I'm going to use for it, because Mocha seems to be very, very popular now. But when I did look at it, I was like, this looks confusing. So, but I just need to sit down and learn some of these tools and get on it, really.
Yeah, I mean, not Backbone. React makes testing very, very easy. And I think, is it Jest that's just come out from Facebook as well? So I've not had a chance to have a play with that yet. But we're using Mocha, because we get the Nyan cat in the console, which is basically the only reason we're using Mocha, because Jasmine doesn't offer that. That's the main reason we're using Mocha. But yeah, I'm kind of eyeing up Jest, but at the moment it would just be another, we're moving to Jest because it's a new shiny thing, rather than we've actually got a need for it.
Wait, for like a JavaScript testing virgin like myself,
yes.
What would you, if I want to just literally dip my toe in the water and just set up a few tests, what would be a good place to start, would you say?
I'd just start with probably, I'd say Mocha, because there's more documentation around around that. And then, as in, if you wanted to just learn it from the absolute basics, like write yourself a function and then write a test that sits around it, check that 1 does in fact equal 1 is a good place to start. And then write a function. But yeah, no, I'd have a look at Mocha. They've got some pretty simple documentation anyway, and you can start as basic as you want, and you can make it as complicated as you want as well. But yeah, for the most.
But how does it work with, for example, like say I've got a save template function that, you know, goes in, changes some stuff in the store, and then makes like a XHR request, and then PHP. So how do you test that without actually committing to, you know, the persistence level and storing something you don't want to?
So you'll generally mock the API calls. So you won't actually interact with the API itself. You'll kind of, you'll mock it and you'll fire off a response and you'll intercept that response. So before it actually gets kicked off, you'll return what you want to test the return value is. So
I've got you. So you would see how that would react to whatever status code you mock sending back, I take it, and then
exactly, yeah. But that's another thing. There's so many different tools as well. Like for testing, we're using like Mocha and Sinon, and we're using Enzyme. What else are we using? And that's just for testing itself. You've got 3 dependencies, and they've all got dependencies, and they've got dependencies, and it's just silly. The scary thing, like if you look at your package JSON, and say you've got like 10 files that you've got as dev dependencies, and you do your npm install, and then you go and open up your node modules folder, there'll be 150 packages in there. It's
one more question, since we've got such a JavaScript guru on the show. In terms of like error handling in JavaScript,
yes.
Now I do this on like a function by function basis. So, you know, switch case. If I get this status code, do this. Do you do that globally, or do you do it the same way that I do it? Because the way that I'm doing it seems like I'm perhaps duplicating work. Whereas maybe I should say, well, if I get the status code, you know, pass this message to this error handler, do it that way. What's your method on that?
I mean, I've generally been doing it the way you're doing it. So on a when you say on a function, is it basically say you got a response on an API call? Is that what you're effectively doing? Yeah, I generally have a class which is the master API call, and then from that you just extend that. So you've got the error handling within the master class, and then you'll create a class from a class from the original one, which doesn't need the error handling because that's already in the master one, and then you can just change whatever parameters you need for that. So you've got like a base.
Sounds much more sensible, yeah. Okay.
Awesome. Well, I think we're almost hitting up to the hour mark, so I thought, you know, maybe this is a good time to stop. But I say that, Fraser, man, it's been great chatting to you again.
Yeah, likewise. No, thank you very much for putting up with me.
We definitely have to do this a bit more often, hopefully. It's been another great episode, and we'll speak to you again next week.
Cheers.
You've been listening to 3 Devs and a Maybe. You can contact us at contact@3devsandamaybe.com or follow us on Twitter at 3 Devs and a Maybe.